Hello aviators, how are you today? My name is Magnar Nordahl. I'm a captain and instructor on ATR aircraft. This is the second video about the primary flight display, PFD, in ATR aircraft with glass cockpit. The first video covers the procedures for power up until we are ready for takeoff. If you have not seen it before, I recommend you to watch it, because it explains the basics of the PFD and the associated control panels. You will find a link below. In this video, I will cover the procedure from takeoff until reaching cruise speed. The aircraft is an ATR 72-600 with standard 3.1 software. We are now lined up on runway 36 at Malé Airport in Maldives. Active flight director modes are heading and indicated airspeed. We have ARM LNAV and VNAV IS. The flight director is coupled to the left side. The captain is pilot flying. V1 is 112 knots, V2 plus 5 is 121 knots, and the cleared altitude is 7,000 feet. The transponder is set to altitude reporting and the TCAS is set to above. The navigation source is FMS number 1. We will fly at TISA 1 Alpha departure and the first waypoint is Mike 400. The bearing is 003 degrees and the distance to go is 13.8 nautical miles. One of the last checks before taking off is to check the lateral flight director bar is centered. This is done by pressing the heading knob to center the heading bug. A lot happens when we take off, so I will explain some of it beforehand. When we reach VR, rotation speed, we lift the nose up to 8 degrees. Then we follow the flight director bars. There are 3 visual indications for positive climb: the VSI, altimeter and radio altimeter. But when we rotate the aircraft, the nose gets airborne before the main wheels. And since the static ports are in the nose of the aircraft, the instruments will indicate climb before the main wheels leave the ground. When the main wheels are airborne, the idle gate lever moves forward with a distinct click. When I hear this click, I know we are airborne and can retract the landing gear. After selecting the landing gear up, we select the yaw damper on. When airborne, the flight director changes to LNAV and VNAV IS modes. And Alt Select is armed in blue color. Malé Tower has cleared us for takeoff. The power levers are advanced and the airspeed comes alive. "70 knots. The captain is pilot flying and calls my control. V1 rotate, positive climb, gear up, yaw damper on, LNAV, VNAV IS, Alt Cell Blue. The target speed is V2 plus 5 knots. V2 is marked with a blue triangle at the top of the amber box. Passing 500 feet, acceleration altitude. We set power management to climb. The target speed automatically increases to 170 knots, which is standard climb speed. For ATR 42, it is 160 knots. The white bug with letter F is minimum speed with flaps retracted. The amber box indicates minimum operating speed. Flap speed, flap 0. With flaps retracted, the minimum operating speed is the white bug. The top of the red box is the speed where the stall warning is triggered. The green double lines indicate maximum bank angle in turn. Below 1100 feet radio altimeter and at speeds close to minimum operating speed, the maximum bank angle is 15 degrees. This is called low bank. When we climb through 1100 feet radio altimeter, it will change to 27 degrees bank. And this is high bank. Also at 1100 feet radio altimeter, the TCAS switches from TA only to normal operation. Autopilot on. We handed over to Male approach. Approach tells us to turn right when reaching 5,500 feet. To prepare for the turn, I changed the vertical mode to indicated airspeed instead of VNAV IS. If you deselect LNAV with VNAV engaged, the vertical mode is changed to pitch hold, which is a basic mode. So before selecting heading mode, I must deselect VNAV first. To increase the rate of climb, I reduce the airspeed. The speed target is set to manual, and the target speed becomes blue. Best rate of climb is whitebird plus 10. I select a little more, as we expect some turbulence ahead. We are cleared flight level 140, 14,000 feet pressure altitude. The amber bug is minimum operating speed with flaps retracted in icing conditions. It is called an icing bug. The green labeled term for terminal is visible when we are within 30 nautical miles from the airport. It indicates that the value of our full deflection of the deviation bar is 1 nautical mile. When we are more than 30 nautical miles from the airport, the value of our full deflection is 5 nautical miles. When I select a system page on the MFD, the navigation area will change to Mini ND, navigation display. We can now see the flight plan route. I changed the range, and I changed from arc mode to full rows. Most of the traffic shown by the TCAS are seaplanes. There are many of them at Male Airport. The weather radar shows some rain showers. We are clear direct to waypoint Mike 502. The FMS commands a turn to the new waypoint. As we are turning, I select auto speed and we start to accelerate back to 170 knots. And here the camera lost the focus for a few seconds. My apology. The yellow arrow bouncing up and down is the speed trend. It shows what the speed will be in 10 seconds from now if the acceleration remains the same. In the middle of the turn, we discover some weather in our track. We request heading 120 and select heading mode. Just a few miles on this heading and we will get clear of the weather. Air traffic control then clears us direct to a waypoint further ahead. We handed over to Male Control and they clear us to flight level 160. This will be the cruise level for today. We departed with 22.8 tons, very close to max takeoff weight, and the temperature is 15 degrees above standard. So this will be the best cruise level today. The transition altitude is 11,000 feet. We set standard by pressing the baro set knob. From now on is the altitude referred to as a flight level. I will now demonstrate the icing procedures. Actually, we did not encounter icing conditions, but I decided to record this as a demonstration. As I said before, the minimum operating speed is marked with the upper part of this amber box. In normal atmospheric conditions, it is equal to the white bug. Before entering icing conditions, we check that our speed is at or above the amber bug, the icing bug. When we select the anti-icing systems on, the amber box indicating minimum operating speed moves up to the icing bug. When ice starts to form on the airframe, we will get an amber icing label on the FMA. When editing this video, I just added an icing label here. And that means we activate the de-icing systems. With ice on the airframe, the minimum speed is icing bug plus 10 knots. In this case, the icing bug is 167 knots. Therefore, we must select manual speed and set the target speed to 177 knots. As we are accelerating, we lose some altitude before we start climbing again. To avoid losing altitude during acceleration at high altitude, we can use altitude hold when we accelerate. We finished exercise, switch off the anti-icing systems and restore normal climb speed. (1,000 feet before level off, we get the altitude alert. The box around the altitude indication starts to flash orange, and it keeps doing so until we are 250 feet before level off. When we are 1/10 of the rate of climb below selected altitude, in this case we climb with 500 feet per minute, so 50 feet before selected altitude we get Alt star, altitude capture. Alt green, altitude hold. The target speed is now 5 knots below the calculated cruise speed. I select heading mode to fly around a Range Rover. When we are clear of the weather, ATC clears us direct to the next waypoint. When reaching cruise speed, we set cruise power. And that is all for this time. In the next video, we will use VNAV for descent and fly an ILS approach at Malé Airport. Until then, thank you for watching, have a wonderful day and happy landing!